Going on, yo? No real agenda today. Just flowing, just allowing what wants to arise here. I've been really moving into creating more and more flow, and ultimately just learning how to surrender more and more to that flow. Like some of the key things that have been coming up for me are just the words of trust, flow, and surrender. And it's kind of ironic how I've gone through this whole process of trying to do so many things and like trying to create this experience, this ideal, this vision of what I see in my dream. And for so long, which is just kind of the common path that we've been indoctrinated into, and you can approach this from many different angles, just collectively, our own individual paths or past, and how this is all, there's a lot of different forces at play that kind of lead us into these places where we feel like we have to do things a certain way because that's just kind of the status quo. That's how things have been done. And part of that story is the story that if you want something, you have to go and you got to get it. You got to take it. You got to, do the things to accomplish the things. And I realize, and I'm continuing to realize more and more, why the path that I've been on, it seems like there's been so many things that haven't worked out, and that I've tried so hard and I've worked so hard to try to make these things happen, and over again coming to that place where shit's not working out. It's like I'm doing all the right things. I'm putting the right pieces into place. I'm studying all the right stuff, and I'm working with the right coaches, all the things, and it's still not working out. And it's like, going through that experience so many times and having to really face failure so many times in so many different ways, even though now I don't really see it as failure anymore. It's just, steps along the journey, because I wouldn't be where I am today, who I am today, if it wasn't for how things have gone and kind of this journey leading up to where we're at right now. But either way, I've been coming to this place of realizing more and more that this story is about surrender. But you almost have to go through that process of having to do all the things and having to try all the different techniques and practices and all of these things. It's like I kind of think of the analogy of you're going on this path and you see the peak of the mountain of where you're trying to get to. And that's your dream, that's your vision, that's your ideal, that's your legacy. And that's the thing that really gets you started, because it's like a driving force. We have this deep desire to make something of ourselves, to accomplish something, to be somebody, whatever that looks like for you. But there's this desire to want to be better than you are and want to achieve something greater than what you're currently experiencing. And that's what gets most of us started. And it's like, as we go through that journey, we begin to, pick up all these different things, and we have this like big bag that we're carrying with us of all these different things. And a lot of them were helpful. We might have needed this tool to overcome this obstacle, and then we keep it and we carry it with us. And then we might have, needed to carry some extra resources with us along the way to continue our journey. But as we keep climbing up the path, it gets like narrower and narrower, and it gets steeper and steeper. And you ultimately come to a place where you realize that you can keep continuing to try to will your way up, but this bag that you're carrying full of all this stuff that you've accumulated along the way, even though they were resourceful in certain times and in certain circumstances, you ultimately, it becomes a hindrance for you to continue on your journey. And so there comes a place where even though you needed all that stuff to get to where you currently are, you ultimately have to let it all go in order to continue and fulfill your journey. And then there even comes a place beyond that where you have to recognize that where you are trying to go is you've been there the entire time. And like this whole sense of seeking, of trying to get to somewhere, begs for something to be sought after. And it's like this feedback loop of I'm seeking something, I'm trying to find this thing, I'm trying to get to this place. And the more that I'm trying to get to this place, the more it keeps, it's like the horizon. The more we run towards it, the more it continues to move away, and we never catch it. And the only way to really finally realize that is to come to that place of recognizing that the whole journey that you've been on the outside was a journey of coming to a place of complete acceptance, forgiveness, and just embodiment of who you have been the entire time. And that's what, is as much as it's been painful in times with facing different obstacles and facing different failures and things not working out and putting myself in these, seemingly difficult situations. It's ultimately helped me to come this place of recognizing that the best thing that I can do is to just allow the flow of life to happen and just completely surrender myself to the, they call it divine will, to just the will that is moving all of life, that is guiding this whole process of evolution. I've been studying gene keys, and they basically break down, there's 64 gene keys, and it kind of has a basis in the I Ching of, I think, like ancient Chinese teachings. I'm not really familiar with that, but it's like these 64 different, the really aspects of what it means to be a human being in these different things that are already encoded within us. And it gets deep into how the DNA, our DNA at a genetic level, is really this storehouse, this memory bank that is a living memory bank, because it has the capacity to change and to mutate, but is this quantum memory bank of our entire evolutionary history, really past, present, and future. Because in reality, this time is a kind of a construct that we allow ourselves to live in through the process of our mind, of thinking. And there's, it's a whole rabbit hole in itself. But really, just like going on the journey of the mountain, where you realize everything's already been here the entire time. It's the same thing, like in your DNA at a genetic level, there's this storehouse where everything, every process, every aspect of our evolution is already encoded. And without getting into a super long, like, digression discussion here, this whole process of evolution, even to this current form that we have, this current vehicle that we have as human beings, and being able to think the way that we do, and to express the way that we do, and to have relationships in the way that we do, it all had to come from this evolutionary process that we have experienced on this physical earthly plane, all the way from the kind of single-celled organisms and bacteria and that whole process into multicellular organisms, and then into actually, different species of reptiles, and then mammals and things like that, all the way into this human form, to be able to have this experience, to then be able to continue this evolution. Because, if you think about how far we've come, what makes us think that this is our final form, even at a physical level? And we see this every day, and even over the last 100, 200 years, even though things happen relatively slowly at an evolutionary scale, things are still moving and things are still progressing. And there's things that are happening at an individual level, but also collectively. And it's crazy how the ideas that get implanted, and even like past collective traumatic events, can get stored as different innate fears and different innate belief structures in our DNA, in our system, that become reenacted and become expressed through the experience that we're having. And so, going full circle, this concept of, having to work, and like, what is work, and our perception of what work is as this output of effort, and that it's supposed to be hard, and that if it's not hard, then we're not working hard enough. Because like achieving our goals, we have this belief, and we don't realize that's how deeply the belief is. And the belief is deep when you don't even realize it as a belief. You just accept it as fact. That's when you know. And for me, that's when I've learned to really question things. Every time that I come across a certain belief that I hold, that I just accept as a fact, that is my cue to then question and ask myself, is that really true? Is there a possibility for something different? And when I came across that belief, and as I continue to study more and more too, and that's the reason why I choose to study so much, is because I like to hear different ideas. And sometimes, something one person says can be a catalyst to help me see something in a different way, which can then help me to alter my own perception of what's possible for me and for all of us. And we all have this innate genius within us that is already there, that is really just waiting to be expressed. And we just have to get out of our own way to see that. But this whole idea of accomplishing your goals can come through hard work and a lot of effort. And it's a self-perpetuating thing, because the more that we believe in a belief, the more that we see it as true. And the more that we see it as true, the more we choose to believe in that belief. And this happens at an individual level, and this also happens at a collective level. As if you get 8 billion people thinking the same way and seeing something in the same way, then it becomes this truism. And then because it becomes this truism, we believe in it, and we make it be live through our belief, which then it reinforces the illusion of the truth that we're holding on to. And so in order to really get down to that, you have to first and foremost do this work at an individual level, because that's all you really have direct control over. And then as you do the work at an individual level, you are quite literally, because the universe it's fractal, it's holographic, meaning that the microcosm is the macrocosm, and all the tiny pieces contain the architect of the whole. And so when you do your work at an individual level, you are actually doing the work for the entire universe. I know it might sound crazy, but that's literally, that's how it works. And so that's why it's so important to do this work. And then the paradox is that it's also not important, because going back to the journey up the mountain, the more that you desire to change, the more that you try to will yourself through this process, the more that you can continue to perpetuate the same ideas. Because what tends to happen with our beliefs is that we'll see them and then we'll question them and then we'll attempt to change them. And the irony is that through our attempt to change them, we are actually reinforcing them. And sometimes the same kinds of beliefs just end up turning into something else, but they're the same root, just like a diet. So if you go from veganism to carnivorism, there's still this same fundamental belief that your diet has to look like a certain way, and you create these rigid boundaries to what you should and shouldn't fuel your body with. And it's like a religion. It's just set of beliefs. You're just switching the things that you're believing in, but you're still holding on to these fundamental beliefs about how you think things should be. And again, it's not like a concept of right or wrong, or you should do this or you shouldn't do that. It's really just the matter of seeing that and noticing that, becoming aware of that. And this is why having, going back to the bag of things that you carry with you, this is why having those tools along the way are very helpful, because, meditation is a tool to help you grow your awareness so that you become more aware and you can notice more and more of these different beliefs and how even like these subtle little nuances happen and how clever the mind can be. But ultimately, as I'm realizing more and more, and I'm still learning every single day, it's a continuous evolution. That's the fun part of this. It's like everything, even though you're still learning and growing and developing, while at the same time knowing that the process of learning and growing and developing is really this process of realizing who you have been and the potential that you have been holding the whole time. The more I'm realizing as I go through this process is, in order to really realize your full potential, again, we have this concept that it's something to be reached out and grabbed, and something that we already aren't, and we have to go and get it. But in order to really do that is this process of acceptance and letting things be exactly as they are. Even the whole concept of desire, and if you want to get deeper in this kind of stuff, I really highly recommend studying Gene Keys. I'm just into it currently, and I'm kind of in the beginning phases of it, but there's a lot to it, and there's a lot of layers to it. And Richard Rudd, the author of the book, as well as there's different courses, but I really resonate with the way that the message is, and the depth that he goes to, and how he is able to explain all of these different things. Because yes, it is this process of trust, flow, and surrender. And at the same time, it can be whatever you want it to be, because there's no necessarily hard rules. Anytime you get stuck in hard rules about how things are supposed to be, it's the same thing. And again, it's this constant journey, and this is constant. At a certain point, it's fun. It becomes this game of continuously just noticing and becoming aware and accepting of what is going on. So that's really the primary message of today, and I don't think there's any need to continue on that point. I think I've made it clear enough. So I'm going to end you with that. And remember, as I always like to end here, the journey is the way. Thank you for tuning in, and I appreciate you. And I want to send a lot of love your way, just opening my heart to you because we're all in this together. And again, regardless of where you're at in life, where you're coming from this, I mean, if you're listening to this, it's for a reason, because this stuff isn't for everybody. This message isn't for everybody. Not everybody's ready and willing and open to receive this. But if you're here, it's for a reason. So thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to sharing more with you again very soon. Peace, y'all.